Is that patented by them? That's not really in any other pad system yet.
Specifically as it's engineered, I don't know if it's. I don't want to get in legal trouble here, so I don't know if they actually.
Yeah.
It's proprietary to them. They're the only ones that design it the way they do. It is
Yeah.
different than the quick motion strap system that CCM uses. And I will say it's CCM's credit that same system, which they actually refine more with the Axis. I like it a lot. I like it a
Mhm.
lot. It does something similar intent in terms of kind of really putting the contact point in an optimal position on the leg to allow for that's the thing with leg pads is you're always trying to fight that um, do you want performance and response and you want rotation. So if you make the
Mhm.
pad very, very loose, you're going to get rotation, but the pad's going to be swinging around your leg. You tighten it
Right.
way up, the pad's going to move with your body, but it's not going to rotate. And so like the quick motion strap is, and all the various other names that the companies use, that's the idea is, okay, put it at the top of the calf, hold the pad up on the leg, and this will let the knee above you rotate, and then but it'll also give you more of a firmer contact higher up on the leg, which make the pad more responsive to your movements.
Yeah. That's a great break. Because I just keep hearing about this calf rotation system, and when I first got into CCM like 10 years ago, that just having that leg channel was just sort of. I think I came off like wearing a Bauer 195 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So like going to the Reebok Premier 2 was like the first Premier 2
Oh,
was
yeah.
just like crazy. It's just fit like a sock from day one.
Yeah. No, those are, oh gosh, those are great. Those are great pads.
Yeah. Do you do you think they'll ever bring something like that back, or are we sort of beyond that channel now?
In terms of, sorry, didn't quite follow.
Well, I'm just curious because I feel like now with the old Reebok series, it was way more open,
Oh yeah.
um, a calf system, and now we got all these straps around the calf and all this stuff. Like, do you think we'll go back to that, or we're beyond that? Like, this new system is better.
Yeah, I no, I it depends. I think that you see a lot of companies are it's less. You're right in the sense that it used to be the logic was, okay, let's make the leg channel as wide as possible, so you get the
Yeah.
leg moving around as wide as possible, but we're still going to throw a bunch of leather straps on there. And then you had
Mhm.
companies going, well, forget the leather straps, let's put a bunch of Velcro on there. And they've gotten much more intuitive in terms of how they set up the straps and what are the straps you need. I think my Bowers, my Ultrasonics, I literally have three on my leg. I have three straps. I have
Right.
I have the oh, I gotta remember their name for it now. Hold on. I think it's the Quick Connect or the Connect strap. Oh, I'm gonna mess up the name now, and I'm gonna be kicking myself. But it's essentially the professor strap at the top of the calf,
Yeah. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then I have a lower calf, and then I have a calf wing, and that's it. Then I have my toe. You don't even need the knee block strap now because of
Yeah.
the aforementioned knee block system that they have, which is crazy.
Right.
And I think the companies have been really smart in terms of are trying to be a lot more intelligent in terms of how they set their strapping. CCM a few years ago partnered up with a gentleman by the name of Ryan Frayne, who's a PhD in biomechanics. He was working on his PhD at the time,
Mm.
and he's a super interesting dude. And he has done a lot of studies with them, and he's published studies on how does the strapping of the pad affect the velocity when your pads are dropping, and what is various small what we think is maybe small changes to a pad, how does it affect how the skate interfaces with the pad and things like
Mm.
that. And the fact that CCM is going to those lengths to get a PhD and putting them in their lab to do all these really sophisticated studies is really interesting. So will we return to the big leg channels and stuff like that, like the P2s? I mean, I think it's more about being more selective in where everything goes
Right.
versus where we were before. But you still can get wide leg channels. I know CCM and others, CCM specifically, since you mentioned them, they do still offer a lot of customization options, and that there is
Totally.
a very wide calf or there's a very wide leg channel option. But I encourage people to put the quick motion strap on it because that's going to be you're going to want that as well.
Yeah. Well, before we move on from Lefebvre,
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if, because I just get a ton of questions from people even
Sure.
asking me like, hey, what's the difference between all the main sets? And you sort of alluded to it a little bit before, but if you could just briefly maybe break down quickly what exactly who is each set for, and how does each one feel?
Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. So if you look at how the one with Lefebvre is that you have a lot of custom options. You and like all the companies, I should say, but Lefebvre does it very very well. So all of that, everything I say is kind of with that caveat. Each line has a glove break that's specific to it, but you can customize and put a different break in. That's not that big of a deal.
Right.
In terms of who's if you're looking for a truly top of the line innovative pad, the most innovative pad, that's the 20.1. That's someone who's saying, I want something as innovative as possible. It's going to hold the pad up as high as possible on my leg. I don't care about knee rolls. I want something that is the most modern pad out there. That's
Hmm.
the person. Light, super light, few straps as possible. That's definitely what you're looking for. With the 12.1, that's your equivalent to your E-Flex, and the E-Flex is by market share the most worn pad at the NHL level. It's a soft pad. It's a relatively speaking, it's a
Yeah.
dynamic pad. It's super mobile pad. It's the reason why it again has the market share that it does. So that's
Hmm.
and again, it has those knee rolls which are purely aesthetic, but people still like them, and so it has that kind of more traditional look, if you will. The 4.1 is your premier. This is your back in the day they like to say, oh, these are for butterfly goalies that are trying to take up space. Nobody is a pure butterfly goalie anymore. No one's a pure
Right.
hybrid goalie anymore. But they have a more rounded inner gusset, so it's a little bit it slides a little bit differently and a little bit less surface contact with the ice, so allow for a little bit easier sliding. Now, the question always becomes: is it if it's not if you have a round surface on top of a flat surface, are you getting the level of seal, or you can get a little bit better seal with a flat surface? So there's that kind of that trade off. With people that like those, the Premier Two, as you were saying, that is very analogous to the 4.1. And I think
Hmm.
the 87, and I told this to Pat, I think when he first showed it to me a long time ago, those are for the nostalgic gear nerds like me that, again, that remember they have the Lefebvre is spelled actually as the family spells it with the B.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and it has the old L logo, and it's for people that are kind of romanticize goalie gear, perhaps to an unhealthy degree. That it's for us. They go, oh gosh, that's such a classic, super clean aesthetic. Very linear in terms of where the color zones are. It's for again for nerds like me.
Yeah. To put a cap on that, so it's really spelt with a B, right?
Yes, yes. They that's how they spell their name, and they dropped it to make more room for the name on the side of the pad on the outer gusset. By dropping that B, it gave a little bit of a cleaner look. They were told, which is of
Wow.
course the great irony. Yeah,
Well, I had to, because people are always people are messaging sometimes with the B. Sometimes you're like, man, I don't even know what it is. I don't even think there's any accuracy to anything online either.
yeah. Again, it really comes down to there's the company name and then there's the family name, and it's I
Ah,
think that's how I in my head when I'm trying to write about them, trying to make that distinction. Am I talking about Little Faith family, Michelle, Pat, their sister, or am I talking about the company?
yeah. Yeah, well, the Lefevre CCM disruption actually caused me a bunch of headaches in the fall when I tried to order a set. I've worn CCM gear for 10 years now. After I tried that Premier 2, I
Hmm.
never went back, and I wore it in college. And I've been in touch with the Hugo Hamlin is the rep that I had dealt with. I don't know if
Hmm.
you know him at
No, I
all.
don't.
Yeah, he's out in, I guess he's in the Quebec region, doesn't go far. But the second half for I needed to order gear to be ready for the second half of the year. My old stuff wasn't gonna make it for playoffs, and that's like the worst thing you want is right at playoff time, your gear's breaking down and it's slowing you down a little bit.
Hmm.
So I made the switch to Bauer actually, and I ordered an all black set of Bauer 2X Pros.
Okay.
Um, because they had the quickest production time, took them 8 weeks, and then of course COVID hits. There's no playoffs, and now now I got brand new pads. Basically, I've been wearing for 6 months, but I want to dive into a bit of like Bauer's new line, and I'm curious in your opinion. Why are you seeing such a huge shift toward the Bauer sets the last couple of years now in the NHL?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, and you had some great sets in college, I might add. Just want to throw that out there for someone who
Oh,
doesn't claim
cheers,
to
man.
be
Thank you.
who doesn't claim to be, like a complete, nerd about it to the degree that I am. You had some really really good looking setups.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, especially the pro level, like I said, pros are extraordinarily reticent to change. They very much believe, hey, I got here wearing these specs. Why would I change? Why would I change at this point?
Mm,
You dance with the person you came to the party with.
yeah.
They're always, pros tend to actually be a lagging indicator in terms of kind of what's out there and what people are wearing and things like that. I think that now that you look at the time that has elapsed between the 1S coming out and now, so you've got 4 or 5 years, 5-ish years. Now I think the word is getting out among other pros, and they're starting to kind of see it happening. The big thing I remember, that at the beginning, the pros were really blown away by, and I know Lundqvist talked about it, was, the rebounds come off so hot on the pads, and that was completely new, and it really was the first time that companies really started talking about that and kind of putting that into, um, you know, putting it into our minds that, hey, isn't it more advantageous if you can kick that puck out further away from you? And Bauer was able to do that with their new core. I think some of the challenges that they had at the beginning, and they weren't able to convert some guys initially, was that it was a very stiff pad. And then subsequently, through kind of later iterations, they were able to soften it up and make it a nice soft boot and things like that. And they were able to kind of get some guys. So now, with their kind of menu of options, the fact that the pros have seen so many other guys wearing them and seeing, wow, look at those rebounds fly off the pad. I posted a video of Mike Smith in a practice, I think last week, took a shot off the pads, and the velocity of the way the puck came off was unbelievable. You actually lose track of it. I think
Mm,
that, along with the suite of custom options that they now offer for those pads, it really has allowed pros to say, all right, now I'm really gonna start taking a chance on these.
yeah.
And a lot of them have been really happy they did.
Yeah. And everyone talks about this concept regarding hard rebounds, and you just touched on it a bit.
Yeah.
I'm a little on the fence, I would say, and
Hmm.
I'm not one to step on toes, but I've always been one to want a little more controlled, softer rebounds rather than like super hard. And I think that's why I really like the CCMs a lot for a long time. But I'm just curious, where exactly you stand on the stiffness topic. Do you think a harder pad is better nowadays? Like, why or why not?
So I always define stiffness into, there's two different ways I define stiffness in terms of the face of the pad and the puck rebound velocity, like we were talking about. And
Mm,
stiffness as in compression of the pads. How much does the boot flex when I want to stand over my toes, and like how flexible is the thigh rise when I push down on it,
right.
or when I'm in my butterfly and a puck hits the very top of it. So on the puck velocity, about the keeping pucks closer to you, I think it is. I think is some degree is preferential.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
for me, I'm a smaller goalie. I need as much time as I possibly can to get up and move to the rebound, because I'm not going to be covering up much space.
Yeah.
That's for me. I could prefer harder rebounds for that reason. But, like, for example, the Axis has a harder face than previous lines, but it's not as hard as the Bauer. So if
Mm,
those, like you said, those cases where you're like, look, I want to keep the rebound a little bit closer to me and see if I can kind of gather it. I think there are some pads that play more. They don't play softer, but they play more neutral. Where I
mm,
think I think Axis is a little bit one of those. Where if I kick my leg out at it, and I can send that rebound pretty far. If I give it with it a little bit, or I don't kind of give it that extra oomph, the
mm,
puck's gonna stay closer to my body, which is, again, certain situations might be more ideal. On the flex of the compression of the pad, I think the trends you were seeing in those areas are really going to a softer and softer boot. So you get more flex of the boot. You can play more over your toes. You can load up against the post in an RVH, and a stiffer and stiffer thigh rises, because the idea has been, okay, look, I don't need the pad to flex a whole bunch above
yeah.
my knee. In fact, that actually might work against me. I mean, people like Corey Crawford specifically want that area of their pad stiff, because they really rely upon the thigh rise of their pad to for 5-hole coverage more than their stick.
Mm,
So that's a big trend you are kind of seeing across the industry as well. Is, okay, can we soften the boot up, and can we stiffen the upper thigh rise? And then really kind of in the shin area and below the knee, that's where you get some more of the distinctions kind of between the various product lines.
mhm. Yeah, I like how you sort of talk about the rebound velocity, the difference, I guess, in stiffness. Because I mean, I didn't really think about that differentiation, but it's a good way to sort of analyze it. Because like
Mhm.
pad to pad, you're not getting that same velocity, that same rebound velocity, but you might be getting that same stiffness up the thigh.
Yes.
Um, I just see a lot of guys in the NHL. It's like with the Bauer, and I wear the Bauer stuff now too.
Mhm.
Whereas if you don't give it that kind of umph, like then I notice that the puck still, the velocity is coming off pretty hard still, but it's not. It's almost to a point where it's not flying by the guy, and then you're kind of giving up a juicy rebound. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, again, I think you can. It's like everything with this position, right? And it's also the reason why I completely stay out of the realm of technique. There are
Yeah,
guys like you and others that are such experts there, and people will every now and then try to sneak a technique question into my DMs, and I'm like, no, 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 no. You do not want to be taking advice from me, because I think it is so it is so subjective to
yeah,
so many factors that I'm just like, I can't even begin to have an informed opinion or expertise on it. In some ways, I think that almost makes the gear talk easier, because at
yeah,
least I can be more objective and say, this pad is actually lighter than this, and this one slides better, and this one has got harder rebounds. I can actually say those are more objective things when it comes
yeah.
to things like technique and stuff like that, and even like rebounds and which ones are better. Oh gosh, that gets into a gray area that I try to avoid.